Holy City Center Radio. It is episode 67. I am your host, Christian Sanger. Today is January 4th, 2023. Thank you for tuning in. Unfortunately, after such an upbeat and exciting first episode on Monday, first episode as far as the new format where we're going to try to release podcasts Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays each week. I was excited. The new year was upon us. Unfortunately, kind of knocked back to reality here after the new year started. So, unfortunately, sometimes the news isn't great. As you are all well aware, it can be pretty darn bad sometimes. And there's a couple not so great stories, and it's a tough one. Many of you have probably heard at this point that prominent local attorney David Aylor was found dead in his Charleston home on Monday morning. This information was confirmed by the Charleston County Coroner's Office. David Aylor was only 41 years old. He was found non-responsive in his bed by a roommate, according to Fitz News. The coroner's office said that the cause and manner of death are pending as the Charleston Police Department investigates. However, the officers, or excuse me, the one of the first reports from Fitz News, their sources said there was no initial signs of foul play. Obviously, when someone dies so young, it's going to be investigated. That doesn't necessarily mean there's any kind of crime or anything going on. It'll be a little while before test results and things come back. I know a lot of people want more information, but there really just isn't any right now, and honestly isn't really important at this juncture. I knew David, we were friendly. We weren't like texting friends or, hanging out friends. But, when I used to go out a lot more, I would see him frequently at events. And of course, I'm sure as many people know, he always had, if you went to an event in Charleston that required like a wristband, you knew that you probably were getting a wristband with David Aylor Law Offices on it. He was his firm was always really on top of like promoting, themselves through efforts like that. But there's a lot more to David than that, of course. So as I said, I knew him a little bit. We got along well. We would talk at events and catch up and discuss certain things that were going on in Charleston. I just always enjoyed chatting with him. He was always super nice to me. A couple times I asked him questions related to legal things that he answered, quickly too. I'm sure he's a busy guy. He had, some high profile clients and things, and, he's in the news. And but he always made time to answer any questions, pretty promptly too, which was unexpected and I appreciated. He also helped me with getting a trademark accomplished for Holy City Center, the name and the logo and everything. When I was first looking into that, I had no idea where to start, what to do. So I reached out to him, and not only did he help me with it, but if my memory serves me correctly, he didn't even charge me. I didn't ask for any favors. He didn't say, I owe you this for whatever. He just was like, yeah, I'll help you out. I'll get someone from my office to get on this. And then, we exchanged some information he needed. And he didn't charge me for it, which was just like, wow, okay. I mean, granted, this wasn't like a big thing where it was going to, a big case where, he was going to require tons of hours of prep and all that kind of stuff. But, being an attorney is still a business. You have to charge for things. And he just didn't. Again, I was surprised and super thankful that he just was going to help me out with this, for his firm, probably a small thing. They're dealing with much bigger cases and things like that. This was kind of a simple process for them, I'm sure, but not simple for me. So, it was great that I could get someone to trust to take care of this thing for me, since I didn't even know where to begin. So that's my one story I'll share about him. Just kind of shows what a lot of people are saying around town, that he was this really nice guy. He was friendly to just about everybody he met. And he also, in addition to his name being out there for being a prominent attorney and being on TV and doing interviews and doing local radio spots and things like that, um, he and his firm are also heavily involved in all sorts of events and charities in town, and not just providing wristbands for promotion. They donated a lot, whether it was money or services or what have you. There's countless stories that you can see out there on social media and things talking about you know his philanthropy and some of the things he did in this community. Certainly a shocking situation when someone dies so young. It's sad, of course, and surprising, and people are left with a lot of questions. And we'll get those answers in time. Like I said, not really that important right now. People are just interested. It's human nature. But his law office released a statement, saying that, quote, "We are deeply saddened by the loss of our firm's leader and namesake, David Aylor. David started this firm 14 years ago as a sole practitioner in shared office space and grew it into the successful 22 firm it is today. David was known for his generous and helpful spirit. He cared deeply for his employees and clients. He treated us all like family. David's legacy of grit, hard work, and community focus remains and will continue to guide us. We are all heartbroken to no longer work alongside David, but he left the firm with a strong succession plan and a talented team who will continue providing top-notch representation and service to the firm's clients." End quote. You're seeing friends, coworkers, etc., posting memories and photos and things like that on social media, and it's clear how much he meant to those around him and to the community, and it's a loss for Charleston, for sure. I'll certainly miss him being part of the Charleston community, and I know I'm not alone in those thoughts. And my thoughts and prayers are with his family and good friends. I can't imagine having to deal with this kind of loss and how heartbroken they must be. So yeah, keep them in your thoughts as we move forward. Another story. This one isn't local, but it's another sad and scary situation that occurred in the NFL that a lot of people are talking about. So I wanted to cover it for those who didn't know. A player for the Buffalo Bills by the name of Damar Hamlin remains, as of this recording, in critical condition. He is 24 years old. He suffered cardiac arrest during a game on Monday night. His team, the Bills, were playing at the Cincinnati Bengals. He made a tackle. Seemed fairly routine if you watch football. Nothing seemed crazy about the tackle, nothing out of place. Didn't look like he hit his head either. Usually when you hear players are hurt badly and being brought to the hospital, yeah, sure, broken bones and things like that, of course, or torn ligaments, or like a concussion, but it didn't, it didn't look like his head, hit the turf hard or was hit by another player. So, at first it was hard to know what happened, but after the tackle, he started to get up, got to his feet, kind of stumbled backwards a little bit, and then just completely collapsed onto his back. Um, the broadcasts basically not cut away completely, but weren't showing much after that, as medical personnel ran out there because it was clear he was in distress and not just injured. Reports say that CPR was administered to him on the field. I heard that during the broadcast, and that's when it became really scary. And any injury in the NFL, again, torn ligaments, broken bones, concussions can be scary. They can be sad. They can be devastating. This is a completely different thing. When CPR is being administered, that's life or death, and that's really different. I love football. A lot of people do. It's probably America's most popular sport. But seeing that is just so frightening and so scary, and a reminder that anything can happen. This wasn't. This isn't something that happens often. I've seen either live, plenty of injuries before, highlights, and then stuff in the past. But there's been some scary incidents. The Buffalo Bills had one back in 2007. They had a player who in the initial diagnosis was paralyzed after a hit. He has been able to walk since then and has made improvements, but will be dealing with issues for the rest of his life. So we've seen stuff like that. There's a player, I think it was maybe the late 80s, early 90s, by the name of Dennis Bird, who was also paralyzed, but unfortunately he did not recover, from my memory, as far as like being able to walk at any point. So there's been scary things like that where it could be life or death. Um, but this was like the first time I've ever heard of someone getting CPR in the field and having to have oxygen because they were unable to breathe on their own. Um, anyway, yes, really scary, sad situation. The game was suspended. There has been no decision on what they're going to do as far as making that up. It's, rightfully so. The focus is on Damar Hamlin and the other players around the league, friends, family, and just hoping he's okay. So again, as of this recording, he's still in critical condition. He is in an ICU at a hospital in Cincinnati, and obviously, I'm wishing, praying, and hoping that everything will go as good as it can for him. But yeah, another just sad incident. Again, we had all these great football games, bowl games, and the NFL's wrapping up the regular season and teams making the playoffs. And, just like I said in the first episode, so excited about the new year. And, reality has a funny way of reminding us how quickly things can change. But at the same time provides reminders too, because of that, to try to, live every day to try to get the fullest extent out of that day and be as happy as you can be. And, it's just a reminder of how short and precious things can be, for sure. So with that, we'll move on to some other news, some more upbeat things, some things that are worth celebrating. It's tough to transition, of course, but we're going to try to do it anyway. So we're going to come back locally here. Some big news for the College of Charleston men's basketball team. The Associated Press released their latest men's college basketball poll. And for the first time in 20 years, the College of Charleston has made it into the top 25. Officially, they are number 23 in the nation right now. So congrats to the Cougars. They're having an incredible season. They're 14-1. They're 2-0 in their conference play so far. Their one loss was to North Carolina, who was the number one ranked team at the time. And it was only the second game of the year for Charleston. So they've, they won their first game, lose to the number one team in the nation, and have since, knocked off 13 straight wins. So well-deserved to be in the top 25. They beat Towson, a school in Maryland, for that was their most recent win, and Towson was a preseason favorite to win the Colonial Athletic Association. So very exciting victory in overtime this on Saturday, which kind of solidified that they would be in the top 25, and they are. So again, congratulations to number 23 Cougars. Also in sports news, North Charleston native Trevon Sanders was selected in the third round of the XFL supplemental draft by a team called the Orlando Guardians. That happened this past Sunday. Sanders, as I said, grew up in North Charleston, played collegiately at Troy from 2015 to 2018. He did sign as an undrafted free agent with the New York Jets in the NFL. However, it does not look like he was able to make it into any games. By 2020, he was playing in the last iteration of the XFL. For those who remember, the league then shut down because the COVID pandemic started, and they canceled the season, and basically the league was going to go under for good. Again, for the second time, the XFL, this was tried back in 2001, I believe, and met the same fate as far as, after that first season, they had to declare bankruptcy and shuttered operations. So they tried it again. Pandemic gets in the way, and it looked like that would be it for the league. However, there is yet another iteration of the XFL. This one is co-owned by actor and former wrestler Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. It's scheduled to begin play next month. So some more football coming to your televisions. And yes, Sanders will be, assuming he's not cut from the rosters, or some other opportunity comes up, he will be playing for the Orlando Guardians. So when the pandemic hit and he was in the XFL at the time, he returned home to the Charleston area and began working as a police officer for the North Charleston Police Department, where he actually still works today. So kind of neat that a local police officer will be playing in the XFL as early as next month. So congrats to him on being drafted, and best of luck. South Carolina State Senator Tom Davis was ticketed for public intoxication on Sunday, according to police. Moments after he left some kind of social gathering, he had alcohol at that gathering. So shortly after leaving the gathering, he got in his car and started driving. Claims that he recognized he shouldn't be driving, so he pulled his vehicle into like a nearby parking lot, turned it off, and was just sitting there, according to the report, for over an hour. At around that hour point, he was approached by a Lexington Police Department officer who, was trying to see what was up, talked to him, and he ended up being ticketed for public intoxication. He was not charged with driving under the influence. I'll be honest, I don't know the ins and outs of that charge, but if the senator admitted, which it seems, according to reports, that he did drive his car, realized while driving, oh, I shouldn't be doing this, and pulled over, he still drove and shouldn't have. I don't know if the police officer was just like, well, I don't have any proof of that. It's not on video, whatever it is, and just decided it's not even worth writing a ticket for that. It's going to get thrown out, or what? I don't know. I don't want to speculate, but at the same time, it's a lot of questions that people are asking. So he did end up apologizing, saying, quote, "I am ashamed and embarrassed by what happened, and I want to say I'm sorry to my family and to my constituents. I'm not going to deflect or excuse this mistake. Instead, I'm going to learn from it and move forward with a greater sense of responsibility," end quote. So, all things considered, he made the right decision by not driving. And at first I was like, why is he get a ticket? He was just minding his own business in his car. I don't know how intoxicated he was, but to get a ticket. But then after realizing, oh, wait, he drove for at least a little bit, that technically is driving under the influence. So again, don't know why it went the way it did, but he ended up with a ticket for public intoxication, and has apologized for it. In Murdaugh news, everyone probably at this point well aware of the Murdaugh murder saga and everything involving that family. Russell Lafitte, the disgraced Hampton banker, was found guilty this past November of 6 counts of federal bank-related fraud. He has ties to Alec Murdaugh, so this was like the first official chip to fall when he was found guilty. But now Lafitte has hired 2 new lawyers, as he is seeking to appeal his case. So he hired criminal defense lawyer Mark Moore and his associate Michael Parente. That was all made official in court filings this past Sunday. Both work for Columbia-based Nexon Pruitt. So yes, new lawyers for Russell Lafitte as he tries to challenge that guilty verdict on 6 counts of federal bank-related fraud from this past November. We'll keep you updated as that moves forward. Now a bizarre story. I don't even know what to make of this, but this comes from News 2, by the way, is where I'm getting these details, WCBD. Authorities in Mexico said on Friday that they found a bizarre package at a local airport. What was in that package? 4 human skulls that were being shipped to the United States. So Mexico's National Guard said that its officers were called to an airport in the city of Querétaro after an X-ray detected that there was something kind of bizarre in a cardboard box. When they looked at the box, that's where they found that there was 4 human skulls wrapped in plastic and aluminum foil. Why does this tie into South Carolina? Well, it was addressed to someone in Manning, South Carolina. No other details have been released as to what address it was sent to, if there was a name on it. They haven't released those details yet. All we know is there was a box of 4 human skulls being shipped from Mexico to Manning, South Carolina. Just very, very bizarre and frightening, to say the least. The Guard says that the shipment regardless of how the skulls were obtained or whether these items were meant for like a medical study. Regardless of all that, it still may violate Mexican laws on the handling of corpses. So that's something that'll be looking into. The area where the airport is one of the most violent states, or it's nearby one of the most violent states in Mexico, and has long been supposedly dominated by a drug cartel. Again, this is all in the News 2 article. So that's in there. So maybe it's somehow related to that. Regardless, really bizarre story. If there's updates, I'll certainly provide them, because I'm sure, like me, you all would love to know what the hell is going on there. Why were these being sent to Manning? And what is this all related to? Bizarre, to say the least. And finally, some big news on Tuesday. Some comedic legends are coming to the North Charleston Coliseum. Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle will be performing at the Coliseum on January 27th. The tickets, there's a pre-sale happening today. If you're listening to this podcast, Wednesday, January 4th at 10 a.m., a pre-sale starts. At that time, you're going to need a pre-sale code. So depending on different mailing lists you're on and things, maybe you can find that. The public on sale is Friday, January 6th at 10 a.m. So if you don't find the pre-sale code, and if there are still tickets available by Friday at 10 a.m., you can then get those tickets. Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle are two of the most popular and successful comedians. I'm probably not telling you all anything that you don't know. And they've also found themselves embroiled in some recent controversies. Rock, of course, made a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith during the 94th Annual Academy Awards that led to actor Will Smith, Jada Pinkett Smith's husband, walking on stage and slapping him on live television. I don't know how you could not know about that story, but if you didn't, there's that news. That happened back in March. Since then, Will Smith apologized to Rock and fans for the incident. Meanwhile, Dave Chappelle has had several controversies about things he said. He recently hosted Saturday Night Live, was talking about like Kanye West and Elon Musk and the rise of anti-Semitism that we're seeing in this country. During his monologue, where he was trying to make light of some of these situations, some people thought it was great commentary. Others thought it just played into anti-Semitic tropes. And that comes on the heels of, last couple specials of his where he was trying to make some jokes about trans people that some thought were funny, but a lot of people thought they were inappropriate and transphobic. He kind of doubled down on the second special and, has not made any apologies for any of those comments or anything, and believes he hasn't done anything wrong. During a March 2022 performance at the Hollywood Bowl, Chappelle was attacked on stage by a man with a knife who later said he was upset over Chappelle's past comments. So comedic icons who are facing different controversies for different reasons, are regardless of what you think, it will be a big show. It will likely sell out. And again, ticket pre-sale Wednesday at 10. Everybody else will have to wait Friday, January 6th at 10 a.m. for that. That'll do it for this edition of Holy City Center Radio. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to Lindsay Marie Collins, who produces this with LMC Sound System. Thank you to Tyler Boone, who provides the music in each and every episode. If you'd like to support the show, go to holycitycenter.com/shop and pick up some merchandise, or go to patreon.com/holycitycenter. Sign up for a monthly support for as little as $2. Remember I mentioned pre-sale codes before? If you're lucky enough to get a pre-sale code, guess who has a Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle pre-sale code? My patrons over on Patreon. I was able to provide that to them. So if you were signed up, you would have that pre-sale code. $2 for 1 month. It's got to be worth that, right? Again, patreon.com/holycitycenter. And again, thank you. Please subscribe so you don't miss any more episodes, as we have expanded to a multi-episode format each week. Hope you've been enjoying it. You can send comments to Christian@holycitycenter.com. Please rate and review if you were able to on whatever platform you're listening to. I'll see you all on Friday. And as always, good night and good luck.